Ecclesiastes chapter 9. I'm going to start by reading verses 1 through 10. But all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. Both are before him. It is the same for all, since the same event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good and to the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As the good one is, so is the sinner, and he who swears is as he who shuns an oath. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that the same event happens to all. Also, the hearts of the children of man are full of evil, and madness is in the hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. But he who is joined with all the living has hope, for a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished, and forever they have no more share in all that is done under the sun. Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life, and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol to which you are going. That's the reading of Ecclesiastes 9, verses 1 through 10. To begin, look with me at the end of chapter 8 and into chapter 9. Let that flow from the end of that chapter to the beginning of 9 be apparent to you. At the end of chapter 8, Solomon's subject is human limitation. There are things done under the sun that man cannot find out, cannot perfectly know or resolve or analyze. In the English Standard Version, the last phrase in chapter 8 is, he cannot find out. Now, move into chapter 9 with that. But all this, all what? All this about human limitation, what man cannot find out. In chapter 9, Solomon is still thinking and writing about how limited human beings are. And here is one way to emphasize that. The hand of God statement that here exalts God above all that we see and experience under the sun, and puts us in our place. And if we are responsive to God, embracing the righteousness of Christ, we are in the hand of God in the best way, even if in the future we still see love and hate play out under the sun. Let me repeat, if we are responsive to God, embracing the righteousness of Christ, living in the hand of God in the best way, even if in the future we see love and hate play out under the sun, we're in the hand of God. To put yourself in the hand of God in the spiritual sense through the way you live equips you and me to deal with whatever love or hate that might take place on the earth in the future, though we cannot know it now because we're limited. I think that's the important concept that works itself out when you flow the reading from the latter part of chapter 8 into chapter 9. And all of this acknowledges God's providence and sovereignty. This is positive for those who are righteous. This addresses something very common. You'll hear this kind of narrative sometimes from unbelievers. There's so much evil in the world, so much hate, not enough love. First of all, Solomon has already answered that in the last verse of chapter 7. God made man upright, but man has sought out many inventions. The grim reality of love and hate under the sun that we cannot foresee doesn't argue against God's existence. Whatever awaits us in the future, we all live under the providential hand of God. What we don't know about the future doesn't change that at all. We're under the providential hand of God. And if we are responsive to God in our response to Christ, we are in the hand of God in the best way, even if in the future we still don't know what's going to happen. Taking this in the positive sense, the point seems to me to be, while there will always be things on earth we cannot understand and do or like, cannot see ahead of time, we must put our lives in the hand of God. Obviously, that's a very good place to live. It's hopeful. It is light, not dark. It provides us with assurance and blessing, even though we live under the sun where bad things happen. So coming out of chapter 8 into chapter 9, there is this bright thought that we can lay to heart. We can put our lives in the hand of God. We do that as we are responsive to Jesus Christ. Now, here's one reason this is so important. When we consider what is before us and what is ahead of us, whether it be love or hate, we do not know. Both are before us. I don't think this means we don't know if God will love us or hate us. No. I believe this pertains to our lack of knowledge about the future and what people around us will do. Will we encounter love or hate here under the sun? We don't know. We can't read the future and know when one will occur as opposed to the other. Here's what we can do and can know. Put your life in the hand of God. You see that? We should never contribute or invite hate, but always exhibit love. But during our time here under the sun, we will likely encounter situations where love is predominant, but also situations where hate seems to prevail. Whether we encounter one or the other, or we're able to see when they come, and we're not, we can put ourselves in the hand of God. And here's one reason that's so important. Solomon says we're all headed for the same event. From verse 2 down through verse 6, the subject is the reality of death. It may seem to us sometimes, reading Ecclesiastes, that Solomon has an almost morbid obsession with death. It seems in every chapter there is either a direct or an indirect reference to death. There are other realities, evils, and enigmas of life on earth that happen before death. Why not, we might ask, just cover everything about life under the sun and don't spend so much time on death? Well, because whether good or bad things happen while we're here under the sun, in the end we will leave here. Look at these phrases. Verse 2, it is the same for all. As the good one is, so is the sinner. The same event happens to all. Verse 5, the living know that they will die, and the dead do not have under the sun knowledge. No under the sun rewards. Eventually they are forgotten by survivors and descendants. No more share in all that's done under the sun. We're all headed in the same direction. So from verse 1 through verse 6 of Ecclesiastes 9, these words are immersed in the reality of death. Death could come at any time, and if we've not been living under the authority of God, which for us includes the redemption of Christ, the outcome will be as bad as anyone can imagine, even worse. When you take into consideration not just what Solomon says about the reality of death and judgment, but you include in that everything else the Bible says and all the New Testament teaches us. We can better think about death, but not just think about it. Prepare for it by living as Solomon urges us to live, fearing God and keeping His commandments, putting your life in the hand of God. From the first paragraph, there are a few specific statements I'd like to take up. The phrase in verse 1 that stands out that we've already talked about, in the hand of God. In verse 3, look for this: the hearts of the children of man are fully set on evil, and madness is in the hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. This is clear expression of the concept of vanity. When people know they're going to die, so they set their hearts to do as much evil as they can and play with as much madness and folly as possible in their allotted time, and then they die. That's the idea of vanity of life on earth without God. The only clear path out of that despair is to fear God and keep His commandments. Matthew Henry said, "Mad men shortly become dead men." I think of the old commercial about grabbing all the gusto you can. That's the way many people live. Knowing they will die, they have as much fun and find as much indulgence of appetite as they can. Solomon says that's vanity, because we're all headed for death and judgment. Third, in verse 6, no more share in all that is done under the sun. These verses grouped together, 4 to 6, have one impact. Here's a paraphrase: the living have hope. They can still change their perspective and their behavior. As long as you're alive, you can put your life in the hand of God, fear Him, and keep His commandments. The dead do not have that opportunity for knowledge and repentance, and we're all headed for that inevitable event. If we live our lives for material things, for worldly praise and lust, we're not walking in the way of wisdom, because simply put, we will die. What then? But there's no necessity of despair when you get to the New Testament. Christ died for us so that we can live in the hand of God and receive good from Him and enjoy life and be wise and be disciples of Christ. Verses 7 through 10. Go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Let your garments be always white, let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life that He has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol to which you are going. When Solomon repeatedly brings up the reality of death, his purpose is to bring us to reality, a good reality that's not darkened with despair. So here he calls upon us, once we accept the reality of death, to wisely enjoy what God allows us to have while we're here. Don't obsess over death. Don't get caught up in some morbid, obsessive fear about it. Just get ready for it. Those who fear God and keep His commandments can enjoy peace and family and food and even work. Now, the mention of wine in verse 7 is one of those statements people may find attractive, but let me remind us of three things we know. That the one, that the word wine does not absolutely convey the kind of intoxicating beverages common today. Solomon never recommends intoxication. He even describes it and specifically condemns it in Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 1. 3, it is not Solomon's purpose here to mandate a menu. He's talking in general about living life under the sun. So once we understand the reality of death, we can and should wisely navigate life under the sun, enjoying what we have: food, clean clothes, the ability to work hard. I will add, when you see the word wine in the Bible, unless context tells you, you cannot assume fermented or unfermented. The term wine in modern use always seems to convey alcoholic content. In the Bible, the term is sometimes used without any connotation of alcohol. Look up an example in Isaiah 65 and verse 8. Further, Solomon recommends that in view of coming death, verse 10, we do everything we can to the best of our ability with all our might. You will not be able to take your work with you into the grave. No laptops there, no briefcases. They don't allow cell phones in Sheol. So work hard now. Sheol is the grave. It is the place of the dead. So in verses 7 through 10, Solomon teaches joy and peace and hope. Work hard. Take advantage of the time you have, knowing you won't be doing all these things in the grave, where all of us are headed. There is, almost hidden in this paragraph, a nice positive reference to one of the great pleasant values of life on earth: having a good wife you love. Good men agree. They need to be filled by the warmth of a good wife that cannot be exaggerated. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love. I think of a song that we use in our assemblies sometimes: work for the night is coming. The living have opportunities and capacities to change and discover knowledge and engage in fruitful labor, and all of that is not enjoyed by the dead. Can I jump back up to verse 4 for just a brief comment comparing the living dog to the dead lion? The point is, it's better to be alive, even if despised, than to be dead, but honored. Dogs were the most despised animals in the Hebrew culture. Lions were regarded as the mightiest among the beasts. Proverbs 30 and verse 30. The living, even if they are despised, can change and grow and be forgiven and be granted forgiveness from God and put themselves in the hand of God before they die. Verses 11 and 12. Again I saw that under the sun the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to all them. For man does not know his time. Like fish that are taken in an evil net, and like birds caught in a snare, so the children of man are snared at an evil time when it suddenly falls on them. I want to highlight 5 human abilities: being swift, strong, wise, intelligent, favored with knowledge. Consider these to be 5 abilities: swift, strong, wise, intelligent, and having knowledge. In every case, with people who have some or all of these abilities, there is something Solomon calls time and chance. So you may be fast, but time and chance may keep you from winning the race. You may be stronger than others, but time and chance may not be in your favor. Having good human abilities does not ensure success because of some unknowns: time and chance. One way to say this is things may happen in time, chance, events we cannot predict, that keep us from success that we envisioned, even though we are skilled and qualified and we work hard. I've known men well qualified to be gospel preachers in life and knowledge and motive and skill and delivery skills and people skills, but they die early. They suffer a life-changing injury. They come down with some fatal disease. A car accident takes them out. While we shouldn't give up on developing skills and working hard for legitimate goals, we do not know the future. That's the reality of life under the sun. We can, however, no matter what, pursue wisdom from God with diligence applied in all of life. And then we come to verses 13 through 17. 13 through 17 in Ecclesiastes chapter 9. Listen carefully, please. I have also seen this example of wisdom under the sun, and it seemed great to me. There was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it and besieged it, building great siege works against it. But there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that poor man. But I say that wisdom is better than might, though the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. The words of the wise heard in quiet are better than the shouting of a ruler among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Here was a hero, an unexpected hero who saved the whole city against a powerful army. Yet no one remembered that poor man. Reporters and interviewers always ask well-known people, how do you want to be remembered? Solomon is telling us not to spend much time dreaming about our legacy. What's most important is who we are and what we do now. It is not how people remember us that ought to be our focus. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth. The words of wisdom heard in quiet are better than the shouting of a ruler among fools. Solomon is illustrating the point. What people notice and attend to and remember, that's not what we ought to be focused on. We need to learn in quiet circumstances and grasp the greater value of implementing the wisdom of God in our lives. Sometimes what is public and dynamic and well-known and celebrated and loud and colorful is nowhere near the value of the conversation between two people or a little group or a card from a friend or a text or an email with good encouragement. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Takeaways. We need to keep ourselves in the hand of God. The Bible uses that kind of imagery to express God's power, His love, and our ability to put ourselves under His power. We can do that through Jesus Christ. Now, there's a statement in the New Testament that's negative about the hand of God in Hebrews 10:31. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. That's addressed to people who would abandon God. So let's put ourselves in the hand of God in the most positive way. Also, in connection with verse 1, here under the sun, while we may choose to live our lives in the hand of God, we still may encounter love or hate. Hopefully, we will choose to love and not hate, but we still may encounter the realities of love and hate among people here under the sun. There are basically two kinds of people. Solomon describes one group under the sun as righteous and good and clean, and the other as wicked and evil and unclean. Two kinds of people here. Only one kind will be in heaven. Fear God and keep his commandments.